Are you interested in learning about personal finance and want to know where to begin? I've got 5 personal finance books that changed my life. Want to know what they are? I'll tell you right now. What's up, everybody? I'm Nadav Reese, the financially savvy parent that you always wish you had. There is a statistic floating around that the average American CEO reads something like 60 books a year, while the average American citizen reads 1 book a year. At the same time, CEOs get a lot of flack about how much more money they're making than their average employee. But maybe, just maybe, part of the reason why these CEOs are making so much more money is they're taking time to educate themselves, reading books, and learning how to do well for themselves and for their companies. Now, I believe that you could do the same by reading these 5 books that I'm going to recommend. These books are a must-read, especially for somebody like you, who's looking to create a successful financial life for themselves and their family. Now, even if my CEO book reading theory is wrong, you're definitely not going to be any dumber by reading these books. These books are going to give you financial literacy knowledge. This knowledge is going to be more knowledge than the average person alive today. You're going to be in the financially literate elite. Think about that. Before we begin, if you're serious about financial literacy and you want to be able to make sure that your family has a healthy relationship with money, take a moment and subscribe. So I come out with new videos, we'll be able to learn together and get your family on the right financial foot. So without any further ado, let's jump into the books. Book number 1 is a financial literacy classic, and it'll shift the way you think about money. We're talking about the one and only Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Now I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, but Nadav, I read that book like 10 years ago. Yeah, I know. We all read the book like 10 years ago. But think about it. Has your life changed at all in the last 10 years? Maybe you got married. Maybe you had a couple kids. Or had a divorce. Maybe you're making way more money than you did 10 years ago. Or maybe you're making way less money than you did 10 years ago. Either way, you and your financial life are different than they were before, with different responsibilities. And as a result, when you read this book with the lens of your current life, it'll be like reading it for the first time. You'd be surprised. Now, there are some important takeaways from the book that I'd like to discuss, but I guarantee you, I'm not ruining anything for you. Now, one of the big epiphanies of this book is the difference between assets and liabilities. Long story short, assets are things that put money into your pocket, while liabilities are things that take money out of your pocket. Pretty simple, right? But the mind shift comes in because most people don't look at the world that way. Most people think that their home is their biggest asset. In the Rich Dad, Poor Dad view of the world, if you're paying your mortgage and homeowner's insurance and maintenance fees, things like that every month, that's taking money out of your pocket. And as a result, this thing that everybody thinks is their biggest asset is actually a big liability. Now, if you own a house and you're renting that house out, then renters are putting money into your pocket every month, and therefore it's an asset. Now, it could be the same house, but in one version, it's an asset because it's putting money into your pocket, and in a different version, it's a liability because it's taking money out of your pocket. Now, I've heard from several people that after reading this book, they start looking at things like, well, that's an asset, and that's a liability. Now, if you're not doing that, at least occasionally, and you read this book a bunch of years ago, then it's about time you read the book again. Now go, read the book. Now, if you don't have to buy it, don't buy it. Go to the library. That's a fantastic resource for you. Or ask a friend. They probably own a copy. They haven't read it in years. They'll be happy to let you borrow it. Either way, get your hands on it. If you don't have a friend, don't have a library, then go buy it. But do yourself a favor and read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Book number 2 is in story format, and that could be a powerful way to learn. The Richest Man in Babylon is set in ancient times. Think like loincloths and sandals. They use phrases like art thou and other phrases from the times of yore. Now, this book focuses on a group of people that was able to rise out of financial desperation by using a simple set of financial rules. This book talks about taking 20% of your income and putting it towards debt, having 10% of your income go towards investments, and living on the remaining 70%. Eventually, you'll pay off all your debts, and that 20% will move into the investment category. You'll have 30% of your income in investments, and you'll continue to live on that same 70%. Now, as your financially savvy parent, I think that's a very healthy way to live your life, and it'll help you get to the financial situation that you want to be in. Now, again, I'm not ruining the book for you. There is so much packed into this book, and it's in a fun and easy to read format. Who doesn't love stories? There's also a section called The Rules of Gold. It'll teach you things like how to keep your gold instead of losing it, and how to make your gold grow. You know, the kind of stuff that you want to know if you had a bunch of gold. It's a great book. I recommend it. Go get a copy of The Richest Man in Babylon. Up next, number 3 is The Millionaire Next Door. This is again one of those books that'll change the way you look at the world. Growing up, we had a pretty good picture of what being wealthy looked like. You could drive around town and say, well, this lady looks like she's doing really well, and this guy, I don't think he's got much money at all. We use these status symbols to help us figure out who's rich and who's not. The Millionaire Next Door throws all that out the window. Someone who drives a fancy car, I don't know that they have a lot of money. I know that they spend a lot of money. And some guy who's driving a junky car, maybe he's driving this junky car because he's putting all his money into a bunch of real estate and he's making tons each month in rental income. Looks can be deceiving. The author of Millionaire Next Door spent years doing research to figure out the behavior patterns of actual millionaires. He also followed around a lot of high-income individuals that had a low net worth. Just because you make a lot of money doesn't guarantee that you're going to be rich. At the same time, having a low income does not doom you to poverty. Read this book. It's tremendously interesting and it'll change the way you think about things. You'll be shocked at the way high net worth individuals actually live. There might be some seriously rich people in your neighborhood, but you can't tell by looking at it. And there might also be some very, very wealthy looking people that are actually quite poor with no hope in sight. If you read this book and take a good look at your life and your behavior, then you could gain so much and you could take a massive leap towards a healthy financial life. Book number 4 sort of exemplifies the ideas in The Millionaire Next Door. Up next we have The Wealthy Barber. Now the author was just a regular guy. He was married, about to have a kid, and about to buy a house, and he realized that he didn't know all that much about money. So who did he turn to? His father. Shout out to another financially savvy parent. The father learned about money later in life. So when the son wanted to learn about money, who did he send him to? The person that the father knew would for sure be able to teach him a great deal about money. The neighborhood barber. What? What does a barber know about being rich? Turns out that this barber was really rich because he learned the principles of being financially savvy and put them into action. The Wealthy Barber takes the author, his sister, and their childhood friend through a financial crash course. They talk about all kinds of topics like saving and investing, insurance and wills, and they even delve into the age-old question of renting versus buying. Is it a waste of money to be renting? They look at the pros and cons of each, and you can adapt this conversation to your financial situation. This book is a great jump-off point to learning about other topics of financial literacy. Even if you know a lot about a lot of things, The Wealthy Barber is sure to teach you something that you didn't know that's going to be relevant to your financial life. Do yourself a favor and get yourself a copy. Book number 5 is The Big Mama Jamma and is the most financially heavy on the list, but also an important one to work through. It's called Your Complete Guide to a Successful and Secure Retirement by Larry Swedroe. Larry's been in the business for a long time. I started following him a few months ago after learning about the book, and I'm telling you, Larry knows his stuff and he's going to share that information with you in this book. Now, there are a whole bunch of retirement rules that have probably been ingrained in you by others in the past. Think about stock versus bonds, risk versus reward, and even the 4% rule. Now, Larry's going to go through this and a whole bunch of rules one by one and talk about whether they're still relevant in today's world. Things have changed a lot over the last few decades. People are living longer, Social Security isn't paying the same way it did before, and even the stock market's been on a tear for decades. Are these rules still relevant for your retirement? There are so many great points in this book that, if taken seriously, will help you prepare for your retirement ahead of time. You and your family will be so thankful that you took the time to learn from Larry and get yourself prepared for successful and secure retirement. We're all working so hard. We put in so many hours at work, and we're all sacrificing. It's not easy. But in addition to working hard, you also have to work smart. And these books are going to help you do exactly that. Work smart. Now, please don't make any excuses about how you can't read these books. You don't have time. You can read them in the bathroom. You can get the audiobook and listen to them in the car or at the gym or while you're walking your dog. Do yourself a favor and get your hands on these books and read them. Help yourself and your family have a healthy and happy financial life. These books will help your financial education move forward in a big way. As your financially savvy parent and someone who cares about you and your financial success, I really hope that you take my advice and get your hands on these books. You and your family will thank you later. Go ahead and click up here for a playlist that'll help you learn the basics of financial literacy. Go ahead and click down here for another video that'll teach you and your family to develop a healthy relationship with money. I'm Nadav Reese, a financially savvy parent that you always wish you had. Thanks for joining the family. This channel is for you, so I hope you take advantage and learn. Until next time, keep reading.